buddy, as I try to get this thing locked in. Let's see. Give me 1 second, everybody. First chiming in live on a replay. Hold on, folks. There we go. Okay, we're good. We're good. Yes, folks, you heard that correctly. Christian Scott, the Mets' top pitching prospect, has not officially, but unofficially, officially been called up by the Mets. It will be announced either later today or tomorrow, but Christian Scott will be making his Metropolitan debut this Saturday against the Tampa Bay Rays in Tampa, folks. Yes, you heard that correctly. The Mets have a tied 5-5 ball game going on right now, but I'm sorry, that does not matter. This is far and away the most important news of the day, as Christian Scott is making his long-awaited, highly anticipated Metropolitan MLB debut, everybody. Shout out to everyone first chiming in live on a replay here on YouTube, here on Twitter. It's your boy Wardy, and we break down the latest in Mets land, and today we have some massive breaking news to get into. Christian Scott, the flame-throwing 24-year-old who has the nasty fastball, who has the splitty, who has the absolutely disastrously, I'm not even using proper words here, you know what I'm trying to say, the sweeper has been absolutely brilliant. The strikeouts have been through the roof. We have so much to get into on Christian Scott and what he means for the Mets here, folks. But more than anything, let's get some hype in the chat right now to all my live viewers, people first chiming in live and on replay. If you're watching on Twitter, make sure you hit that like, that follow button, that retweet button. But know that I will only be interacting with our live viewers here on YouTube as I always do. And I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes to come in and chime in. Again, this is absolutely nuts, folks. I have been dying to see Christian Scott in this Mets rotation. The man took the minor league baseball by storm last year, was the Mets minor league pitcher of the year. Now today we can happily say he will be making his Mets debut this Saturday. So in today's show, I'm going to share my further initial reaction along with your reactions that we see here in the live chat, along with what is there to expect from Christian Scott this season potentially with the Mets, and what can we kind of expect in his debut beginning this Saturday again against the Tampa Bay Rays. That and more is what we're about to get into. But again, I appreciate everyone first chiming in live on our replay. Shout out to all you. Also, shout out to my amazing sponsors, as always, that's So Rare MLB. Check them out by clicking the link down below today. That way, you have a chance to, in fact, win Metropolitan tickets to any games you want to go to this year. And all you have to do to enter is to sign up to So Rare MLB and enter one simple contest. It is that simple, folks. Check it out. And of course, the best sportsbook out there at BetUS that has you covered all your sports betting needs. Make sure to check them out today by clicking the link down below. That way, you too get a 125% bonus. Well, not your first, not your second, but your first 3 deposits. Check them out as always, folks. And yes, if you're first chiming in, it is in fact happening. Gary did say it on the broadcast. That is correct. The news was first broke that we saw today from Mr. Kylie McDaniel there on Twitter. Shout out to Kylie McDaniel for the call. He's the first to have it there on the beat. ESPN Baseball Insider broke the initial news stating the following: Mets prospect right-hand pitcher Christian Scott will be called up to make his big league debut, likely on Saturday versus Tampa, per source has been confirmed since then. And this was back at 3:08 today, so this was right around a half hour ago. Scott was in the 99th on my top 100 prospect list entering spring, and has dealt at AAA since then. 25.1 innings pitch of 12 hits, 6 walks, 36 strikeouts for Christian Scott. The strikeout rate has been absolutely through the roof that we have seen. And after Adrian Hauser with yet another blunder that we saw today, allowing, of course, 4 earned runs in around 5 innings or so, Adrian Hauser didn't have his worst start by any stretch today. But this is just a man I personally do not want to see in this rotation. I've told you guys how many times over the past 2 weeks I'm done with the Christian Scott starter experiment. Thankfully, it looks like that may be coming to an end, or maybe it's going to continue, as it appears the Mets are going to be rolling with a 6-man rotation. Not all that shocked by that. That's something we expected the Mets to do this season. MLB is reporting it now also correct. Yes, it is official, folks. The Mets are calling up Christian Scott. And what's so exciting is not only the fact of how he's slotted currently is to pitch this Saturday. Luis Severino was initially slated to pitch this Saturday, but it appears the Mets are going with a 6-man. A 6-man rotation is something the Mets were always going to be doing once Kodai Senga returns from his IL stint at the end of the month of May here, heading into June. But now you see Christian Scott in the fold in this mix, and I'm so ecstatic to break him down on what you guys and gals should know about him. So continue to smash a like and subscribe on if it's your first time watching, or if you're a recurring recurring viewer as we break down again all the latest here in Mets land. And we got some big news today. Christian Scott is taking his talents to Flushing, Queens. But it will start there in Tampa Bay against the Rays before we get home, of course, there for Scott to make his home debut, if you will. But in case you guys and gals are unaware of Christian Scott and a bit about his game, let's get into it, everybody. It is as follows here, as I will share with you all. Again, give me 1 second as I'm getting everything propped up at the moment. Let me make sure that everything is set up here on Twitter too. Also, I see that a lot of people on YouTube are going to be seeing this on replay. They're going to be like, what? Christian Scott was caught up? When did this happen? Exactly. Again, it's breaking news with the Mets game currently going on. This Mets game is still tied 5-5. I have it on beside me, but just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. We head to the 9th. There, Reed Garrett pitched a strong 8th inning, if I'm not mistaken. Let me double check here with Mr. Reed Garrett. Yes, he did, because he's an absolute dog, and we love him. Adrian Hauser, 4 earned runs over 5 innings that we saw. Nunez gave up a run that we saw there in the 1st inning in relief in the 6th. And Jake Diekman and Reed Garrett have shut them down since then. And, of course, the Mets offense today came in large part because of Brandon Nimmo with a couple RBIs and Francisco Lindor coming off the bench in the 6th. That stomach is starting to feel better, baby. Lindor with a 2-run double. Of course, there was massive. Then Nimmo tied the ball game, but I'm not here really to emphasize today's Mets game. I got to be honest with you guys. I'm here to talk about Christian Scott and what he brings here for the Mets, because this is massive news. When I tell you guys this is such an important call for the Mets, there has not been a pitching prospect the Mets have had in north of a decade with this amount of hype behind him, this amount of great pure stuff that he has, with a heater that sits 95, 96, 97 plus on the gun. And then also you add in all the other great pitches that he has, of course. You have there, whether it's going to be the slider, the splitty, and that nasty sweeper that we have seen work masterfully, especially righty-righty. It has been a thing of beauty. Christian Scott, again, who came out of nowhere in the minor leagues over this past calendar year, is now taking the minors by storm, is hopefully going to take the MLB by storm very, very soon, everybody. Let me get this all posted again. Give me 1 more second, everybody, before this is all set up. Whose spot is he taking? We have yet to find that out regarding Christian Scott as to what roster spot he's going to be taking. But overall, massive news, everybody, regarding the news. Christian Scott is taking his talents to Queens here. Give me 1 second, everybody. Appreciate everyone for chiming in, as always. So I want to make sure I have all the links set up there on socials for everybody to check out. Okay, folks. So again, let me know your thoughts. Continue to drop them down below in the comments. Let me make sure that I didn't miss anything of importance before I break down everything. Okay, let's get into it, everybody. How you doing? It is as follows here, folks. Christian Scott, the Mets' 24, now 25-year-old right-hand pitching prospect. So far in AAA this season, and 25.1 innings pitch, has a 12.79 K per 9. Just to give you guys some context and percentages, that is easily over 30% K per 9. We're looking at a 38.3% K per 9, a walk per 9 of 2.13, which is fantastic. Christian Scott, what has carried him so much in his young professional career has been his ability to command the strike zone as well as he's been. That's the big thing with Christian Scott. Last season, when he broke out in just 62 innings with the Mets there in the minor leagues that we saw there in AA, had a 1.16 walks per 9. So again, he's looked fantastic throughout his young pro career in commanding the bases, and of course not allowing too many walks there on first and second. We've seen it how many times with Adrian Hauser, who walked 2 or 3 batters today, walked 4 his last start, walked 5 the start before that. The walk rates need to come down with all these Mets starters. Hopefully a young, inexperienced Christian Scott, as funny as it is to say, could be that difference maker for this Mets team. The walk percentage is at 6.4, which is just absolutely a thing of beauty. A 3.2 ERA that we mentioned there in AAA. Just so much good that we are seeing from Christian Scott early on in his career, and that is why he's being called up now, folks. Christian Scott has done such a fantastic job with his strikeout rate absolutely through the roof, the walk rate way down. He's done everything and anything to prove himself at the AAA level. Now it was, as I've been telling you guys how long, it's not a matter of if, but when he would be called up by the Mets this season. I told you guys for a while, I really hope and pray Christian Scott is called up ASAP, because he has nothing else to prove. I can understand the Mets not wanting to rush the guy, but at the same time, there's nothing to rush now because we already know what he is. We've seen enough already. He's at the age of 25, right? So this is more of a, I don't want to call it a grizzled vet of a prospect, but having that seasoning versus, say, a Jonathan, who is the biggest name right now in Mets pitching prospects, not named Christian Scott, who just debuted at the high A level in Brooklyn, had a beautiful outing. He's striking out everyone and their mother with one of the best lively fastballs, but he's at the age of 20. we know Joe Nathan is going to take a bit to get to the major league level, should he even get that far. But in the case of Christian Scott here, what he has done over the past calendar year, again, has been an absolute masterful thing of beauty. If we even take a look at the numbers that we saw from Christian Scott last year, folks, let's do exactly that. Let me pull it up for you all here in 1 second. Again, if you're first chiming in, folks, breaking news, Christian Scott, Mets top pitching prospect, has in fact been called up. He will make his Mets debut, his long-awaited, highly anticipated debut this Saturday in Tampa Bay against the Rays. And I'm going to get to plenty of your questions here shortly, everybody, so we'll get to that soon. Bear with me, but before I get there, I do want to share more here on Christian Scott and, again, what he provides to this Mets team, because it's nasty. Again, if we exclude even what Christian Scott has done so far this season, just for a second, and we take a look at, what Christian Scott had heading into the year, it is right here, folks. Christian Scott's 2023 stats. Apologies for the graphic being messed up. Let me fix that right there. There we go. Christian Scott, again, the 25-year-old now. Last season that we saw there in multiple leagues, we saw him there in low A, high A, and then, of course, there in double A. 19 games, 87.2 total innings pitched, a 2.57 ERA, a 0.86 whip, a 2.13 FIP, over 100 strikeouts, only 12 walks last year to 107 strikeouts. That is why Christian Scott is so exciting, everybody. His ability to command the zone as well as he's been, one, is uber impressive, but two, again, the differentiation between the strikeout to the walk percentage is a absolute thing of beauty. Actually, I should have it right here on my phone. Give me 1 second. Michael Mayer tweeted this earlier too. Shout out to you, Michael. Absolute beauty. He does a great job there. I'm covering the Mets through Mets Rise. Yep, a 31.9 K to walk percentage. Just to show you that ratio, that is massive. And an opponent batting average of 136 so far this season at the AAA level. These were, of course, his scouting grades down below, as you see. But this was Christian Scott heading into the season. This is what made Christian Scott such a hot commodity, because we knew, wow, we found ourselves a nice diamond in the rough here. Another guy where he's thriving in the minor leagues becomes now our minor league pitcher of the year. And just like that, Christian Scott is now expected to hit the bigs, everybody. I got a big question to everybody chiming in live on a replay. I cannot breathe, YF. I'm too pumped up after a call up like this. And on top of it, as soon as I am done with this live show, I have a roughly 2-hour drive to Philly to see the Sixers play the Knicks tonight. So we got ourselves a big, big day here in WardyNYM, not just with my Mets here, who are still tied 5-5 in the top of the ninth with 1 on, no out, but we got Christian Scott finally making his Mets debut, folks. I'm pumped up. Everybody watching live, people watching down below on replay, let me know in the comments down there, on a scale of 1 to 10, what is your excitement level with Christian Scott being caught up by the Mets and making his long-awaited, highly anticipated debut? Let me hear it in the chat, folks. Then we'll break down more on Christian Scott, what to expect from him, and what really is to make of this call for the Mets. Why did David Stearns decide to pounce now? What stood out more now versus the Daves prior? Again, we're going to get into that all. Very excited for it. Go Knicks, baby. Absolutely. Let's get my Knicks fans in the chat, as always. Let's get that hype going, baby. We got ourselves a big day. And, the best thing is that, God forbid, even if the Knicks don't play well tonight, you still get Game 7 at the Garden. But hopefully, we can close it out tonight. Let's see the excitement level on a scale of 1 to 10. Mets top pitching prospect Christian Scott has been called up. Give me 1 second as I make sure that I don't go completely out of focus. I did not. That's a good thing. I see 8s. I see 8s. I see 7s. People on Twitter, let me know how you're feeling too. I'll double check there, even though I'm not going to be interacting too much with the Twitter chat per usual, because I want to incentivize you guys to make sure you're watching here on, pardon me. Am I still live on Twitter? Yes, I'm still live on Twitter. Okay, just making sure, everybody. But let me see here. Yeah, we got a bunch of 7s, 8s, 9s, some 10s in there. I've been for a Mets starter since METS. Yes, that's crazy. That's actually a great question, everybody. When was the last time we've been this excited for a starting pitching prospect to be called up? Because Tyler McGill, again, he surprised a lot of people, right? Going all the way from AA to the major league level 3+ years ago. David Pearson went from AA to the majors in the Shore in 2020 campaign and made his debut against the Boston Red Sox and had a fine outing then. Speaking about David Pearson and Tyler McGill, they're continuing to work their way back from injury. David Pearson can return as soon as Kodai Senga, which is May 27th, from the injured list, and Tyler McGill can return sooner than that. And speaking of pitching injuries, one unfortunate update: Brooks Raley, who's expected to return next week from elbow inflammation on the 15-day IL, is now not going to return with the Mets next week. He's going to get further imaging. It's unfortunate, but hopefully it's nothing serious on that front. This is the same issue that he had last year, earlier on in the year, and then he went up and carved up every batter and their mother. So, Brooks Raley, hopefully we're not going to miss you too much longer. Thankfully, this Mets bullpen has been absolute nails without him in said pen for the most part. But I want to ask you guys not only the rating, what is the most excited you've been for a Mets pitching prospect? You know, when you think of Christian Scott excitement right now, what's the last guy to come to mind for you? Steven Matz, that's a great one. And Matz, of course, had like the best debut one could possibly imagine there as a Long Island boy, getting big hits as well there from the pitching position. Also, apologies. I am a very last-minute rigged-up setup, sitting on the bed right now with a, you know, like actually like an old makeup kit that I'm basically using as my holder there. That's my girlfriend's. I was like, can I use this as my desk today? She's like, oh, sure. I'm like, okay. It's wobbly, but we're going to get the job done. What is the last Mets starter that we had this amount of excitement with when he was called up? Was it a Jacob deGrom? Like, I'm blanking. Was it Harvey? It varies on the person here. Really trying to think here which one it would be for me, especially because that's like in the peak of my young fandom, especially when Jake made his debut there, when Noah made his debut, all these guys. But Harvey, that's a great one too. I'd say that's probably justified. Either way, it's about a decade since we've had excitement level like this with the way that with the way the Mets farm has been depleted over the years. Give me 1 second, everybody. Of course, the camera loves to go out of focus. It loves to do exactly what I don't want it to do. Okay, hold on, 1 more sec. There we go. Now we're golden. I think we're golden now. Sweet. It was Noah. I feel like Noah or take your choice. You know, that's what I'll say. One of Noah, DeGrom, one of those is who I'd probably go with, everybody. But yeah, Christian Scott, I'm absolutely juiced up because what do the Mets need desperately in this rotation right now? They need an ace caliber starter. And I'm not trying to, you know, jump the gun too much here when I say what I'm about to say. It's more of based on factuality with the numbers presenting themselves. Christian Scott has the potential to be a frontline starter in this Mets rotation. That is not outlandish whatsoever. He very well could be a top 3 starter in this Mets rotation as soon as this season with the way that he's pitching. Because yes, AAA level is a little skewed. He's given up home runs at a decent rate, but it's AAA. Then you have to say to yourself, okay, the strikeouts, how skewed are they per se? Because you're striking out everyone and their mother, but it's at the AAA level. I will say this, for the guy being at the best level he could possibly be at, that is in the MPB basically, and having the kind of success that he's having, I'm going to go on a limb and say that Christian Scott is hopefully going to have a good, if not great amount of success at the MLB level. And I'm beyond excited to see what he's going to do with Jeremy Hefner in this Mets pitching lab that has been growing tremendously over the past couple of years with all the newfound information that they use. David Stearns, of course. David Stearns, this is his bread and butter. So now let's get into why did the Mets decide to make this move, right? Why did they go the lengths of calling up Christian Scott as soon as they did here? They've spoken glowingly of Christian Scott all spring long that we saw there heading into the season, and you know the early season reports and the pressers from Carlos Mendoza and David Stearns, they both have had great things to say about Scott, and they've said that they've been keeping a very, very close eye on Christian Scott and what he's been able to do thus far. The Mets, by the way, are trying to get the final out there in the top of the 9th with Edwin Diaz in the bump, a runner on third, just to play-by-play this briefly against Christopher Morel. Hopefully not deja vu from last time, and that's a strikeout. That's not deja vu. That is Edwin Diaz having his number versus what he didn't have there that we saw a couple days ago. Edwin, big strikeout on Christopher Morel, works a scoreless 9th inning. The Mets hope to walk it off in the bottom of the 9th, folks. But I could not wait that long to do this live show, and I don't have time to do this post-game coverage because your boy's got a Knicks game to attend. But before we get there, everybody, again, I got to go with whether it's a Jacob deGrom or whether it's a Noah Syndergaard. It's been a decade plus since we've seen a guy of Christian Scott's talents hit the big league level for the Mets in this starting rotation. That is very, very exciting to say the least. And as I read them off, and I'll read them again, just in case you guys don't believe me, Christian Scott's numbers are an absolute thing of beauty, everybody. And we just look at the young course of his career. If we go to 2023, yes, we talked about that obviously, and 2024, what he's been able to do so far this season, it's been an absolute thing of beauty. So far in his professional career, you know, he had so far this season 25.1 innings pitched. In 2023, he had over 80 innings pitched. So he, of course, the workload is a thing where the Mets are going to manage. I do not expect Christian Scott's start on Saturday, even if he carves up every raised batter to go 7 shutty. I'm expecting him probably to go anywhere from 4 or 5 innings because the Mets are going to be very smart with his innings early on. They want to make sure they don't work him up too much. And again, the one thing, if you would like to have any type of criticism there is that the home run rate has been up so far this year at the AAA level, at least at 2.49 home runs per 9. But the funny thing is that when Christian Scott isn't giving up home runs that we've seen so far in AAA, he's literally not giving up anything. He'll give up a home run and then retire the ensuing 18 consecutive batters he sees thereafter. That's including top major league prospects and some grizzled vets, of course, that are now fringe MLB caliber players, but of course can be productive at the MLB level depending on the type of role that they have and depending on how much playing time they get. Point I'm trying to make is that Christian Scott has been facing some high quality batters still at the AAA level, and while those numbers are always skewed to a degree because nothing can compare with what you get at the major league level, there's a lot of encouragement and more than enough reasons to be ecstatic about this kind of move. And for everyone that has been clamoring, that has been, absolutely drooling out the mouth, salivating over a Christian Scott call-up, and now is your time, folks. Now is the time to get juiced up. Now is the time to get excited because the Mets are finally bringing up their guy. So there isn't really too much that I feel like I need to add to this. I'm just beyond excited to see what Christian Scott is going to provide to this Mets team, one, and two, how long is he going to stay up here? Is this going to be a situation where Scott comes up, absolutely balls out in his first start this Saturday, and that's like, okay, he's going to be in this rotation for the foreseeable future? The Mets are going to evaluate things every start with them, as I'm sure they will. They want to make sure they don't hurt his development by any stretch, shape, or form, but it is imperative for the Mets, and exactly why they called him up, exactly why David Stearns called him up, is to make sure that you have him comfortable and playing his game. That's a big thing. David Stearns made this move because we've seen so much already out of Christian Scott so far there at the AAA and minor league level as a whole, but also his ability to not only command the zone as well as he's been. He has a major league arsenal. Cannot emphasize that enough, everybody. A major league arsenal with those nasty 4 pitches, and he works them beautifully. He's going to get a lot of big league quality outs. And when you look at the current options the Mets have in their rotation, Adrian Hauser is a guy that we all want out of the rotation right now because his stuff is flat. Again, if he isn't inducing his ground balls, he's not working well. And while his start wasn't terrible today, he still had to, again, work some Houdini magic to work out of jams early on. And then he gives up because he throws a meatball there to Morel, and that's a 3-run dick shot, and you're down by multiple runs. Like, the Mets offense has been the bigger problem over the past week plus of games. Not necessarily Adrian Hauser, but between Hauser's incapability to be a competent starter every 5th day, Joey Wendell's incapability to play proper defense because he had yet again a piss poor defensive play that we saw early on in the ball game that led to the first run scoring, beyond frustrating. Thank goodness that Lindor actually entered the game, and of course feeling a little bit better from the 24-hour bug going around with the team. But the big thing here, folks, is that the Mets see what they have in Adrian Hauser. They see what they have in Sean Manaea, who of course Sean's been solid, but he's still walking everyone at a good clip. You have Luis Severino, who has been absolutely brilliant. He's getting better with each passing start. Absolutely fantastic to see. Who Christian Scott? We're talking a lot about Christian Scott, Williams, so make sure you're locked in. If you're not listening right now, JD Martinez with 2 out, no on in the 9th, trying to walk it off for the Mets. We'll see if that happens there. But when you look at this overall configuration, even when you throw in the Tyler McGills, the Joey Lucchese's, the Jose Butos, I mean, you see all these guys, and yes, they can provide some quality outs for you, but how many of these guys do you say probably has clear better stuff than Christian Scott? Not many whatsoever, and that is where the bulk of the excitement comes from. There are not many starters I look at this rotation right now and say, wow, they have a fantastic put-out pitch. Wow, you know that they're saying a 2-on, 2-out jam, that they're going to work out of it comfortably and the way that they want to. Christian Scott pitches with a confidence, a swagger, a snarl that is going to not only benefit the Mets tremendously well, but is going to benefit us fans even more. I'm just ecstatic to see what this man can do at the major league level. And as I mentioned, with all those pitches, again, you got a heater that sits 95 but goes up to 97, 98. And what's important about that too for a 25-year-old, he's not completely unloading the gas tank. So it's not like we have this Jared Jones or Spencer Strider concern where, oh, you just called up the kid and he's dealing with serious elbow issues, knocking on wood, because of the velo he's throwing. Not the case here with Christian Scott at all. And that's, again, another part of the excitement. He sits around 95 to 98 on the gun. He's got the slide piece, of course, and you have the normal slider, and then you have the sweeping slider, basically 2 different pitches. The normal slider is going to have more velo there, and shorter cut versus a sweeper, really a thing of beauty. That's, of course, going to slow you down and look nice the way that we saw. He's got the splitty as well. Splitties, of course, you have to be concerned with injury-wise at times. That's something that we'll evaluate with Scott. Splitters have made their way back to the major league level plenty so far this season because pitchers are understanding the grips better, understanding that the impact certain things are having on their elbow and their forearm isn't to the degree that maybe they initially thought. So splitters, again, the uptick is certainly there in pitcher's usage, and this is another pitch that's been awesome in his arsenal. But that sweeper, that is, again, the more recently added pitch in this arsenal, is also very exciting to a Christian Scott. So everybody, before we kind of get close to wrapping things up, the Mets do not score there in the ninth. JD strikes out. Not surprised. The Mets may very well go on to lose this in extras win. All I know is that even if the Mets lose this series, if they drop it, they've lost 8 of their past 10 games. Beyond frustrating if they win it. Again, they stay afloat there at being a 500 ball club or slightly above, because they're 500 right now. A win gets them above 500. A loss gets them below 500, of course. I just want this Mets team to have the right foot forward heading into that Tampa Bay Rays series, because I'm done. I'm done with this Cubs series. I want nothing to do with it. It has been a whole lot of nothing. Since the Mets landed in San Francisco, they have been all out of sorts. Losing Francisco Alvarez hurts them more than you initially believe, and I've said that since the beginning. I'll say that again. And then you got on everything else going on with the team right now. Bad fundies, including Joey Wendell being an absolute net negative offensively, defensively, and everything in between. And then you get everything else going on with the team. Pete Alonso just leaving bases juice today. Lackadaisical at-bats there that we see. Jeff McNeil, lackadaisical at-bats, even though that Jeff, of course, put the ball in play twice yesterday, has been playing the worst baseball, but I still have major gripes with him at times too. This core, there's been some serious problems. They're still trying to get in sync, and right now we just need this Mets offense to actually be competent enough so that one big swing is not going to be the major difference maker in said ball game. You know, DJ Stewart, Mark Vientos, what do these guys have in common? They've had big hits from the Mets over the past week. Without those hits, the Mets don't have wins. So we need to jump on these starters better, because Ben Brown, for those that don't know, the Cubs prospect that started today, looked great. 98 mile per hour fastball, not terrible stuff. But the Mets make this guy look like Cy Young, of course, or a Maddox, because they just can't hit a lick. And this was a top prospect traded by the Phillies for David Robertson back at the 2022 MLB trade deadline, where many rival execs said that was an overpay by the Phillies, and it ends up holding true, because Ben Brown might have a bright future there in Chicago with the Cubs. But no less, this is, again, a lesser starter in comparison to Shota Imanaga yesterday, and then you had Javier Assad the day before, and yet you're having the same hiccups with a starter once again because of piss poor base running, because of your lack of competency with runners in scoring position. This is an ongoing issue with this Mets offense that we unfortunately know way too well, and until we see a consistency happen, I do not have faith in this Mets team on the day-by-day whatsoever, and that's why I don't suggest any of you go out of your way to place any bets there with our amazing sponsor at BetUS with the Mets. But again, if you do, just make sure you bet responsibly. Right now is not the time. Mets fans in Florida should give Jose Siri a standing no. Thank you for the donation, John. I appreciate that. I'm not going to give Jose Siri a standing no. What, because of the fight that happened? Is that what you're talking about, my man? Because I saw there that Siri hit the bomb. He got thrown out by Freddie. Freddie gets thrown out of the game after that happened, which I thought was ridiculous. And then Uribe, the flamethrower right-hander for the Brewers in the pen, starts wailing on him that we saw there after a little bit of an exchange. JD Martinez isn't done. Thinking JD Martinez is done because he struck out there in the ninth shows how little you know about JD Martinez. JD Martinez, even with his 30-plus home run, 100-plus RBI season last year, still had a ridiculous strikeout rate. Was one of the worst batters in all Major League Baseball in his whiff rate and his strikeouts. He's a big slugger. He's always going to be swinging, but he swings so well, and he's a hitting savant. JD Martinez is far from the Mets' biggest problems right now, I assure you. And the last thing that we should do is heavily criticize the guy, where if you knew what you were getting in JD Martinez, you really shouldn't be criticizing anything right now. But again, if you didn't know what you were getting, if you didn't think it was a free swingner, if you didn't think that, yes, he'll push for 30 bombs, was going to strike out plenty in other at-bats, I don't know what else to tell you. That's very much commonality in his game, to say the least. And this is a JDM that we have known for a very long time. He hasn't been, again, far from the Mets' biggest issue on the offensive end. He's 37 and a bad back. He's cooked. So when he was 36 with a bad back last year, he wasn't cooked, right? That's how it's going to work. Jason, you're the same fan that said he was cooked 2 years ago when he didn't get a cortisone shot by the Boston Red Sox. Stop it. Stop the nonsense. Target other players. JDM's not the one to do it right now. The Mets collectively as a whole have a massive offensive problem in hitting early and hitting often, that we know. I appreciate them rallying the way that they have, but now we have a problem as Starling Marte with the nice throw out to home gets him out. Big out thrown at home. That ends the inning. Edwin Diaz gets out of the jam. The Mets now head to the bottom of the 10th, looking to win this ball game, hopefully in a walk-off fashion. Starling Marte with a fantastic drill out ends it. I know that this stream is in fact about, yes, Christian Scott, but right there, that was a beautiful throw. This is why we miss Starling Marte, everybody. Having Marte back in the lab is huge. Also, having that electric arm, a cannon of an arm there in right field is even better. Starling Marte drills out Morel. That does it. We head to the bottom of the 10th. Win the effing ball game. Let's split the series, everybody. The Mets, again, were down by multiple runs in this one. I give them a lot of kudos for coming back and rallying and tying said ball game, but it only means so much if you don't win it all in the end. So, Mets, make sure you go out, win this ball game, and once more, Christian Scott has officially been caught up by the Mets, baby. Let's get the hype going. Let's get everything going. We are juiced up. And before we get out of here, everybody, I got to let you know, of course, about my amazing sponsor on the channel that you guys know very well at BetUS. And as I said about our other sponsor a second ago, Sorare MLB, make sure you sign up to Sorare MLB Fantasy down below today to sign up and enter a league where you don't got to spend $1 to do it. You can build your team easily. Think of MLB The Show in simple forms, and you guys will have a chance to win Mets tickets. I'm giving away three lucky winners on May 6th. The winners will be announced. 3 winners will get multiple Mets tickets for any games they want to go to this season, and the number 1 winner will get a $100 credit. That way they can build their Sorare MLB team by buying cards from the marketplace, because you can buy, sell, and trade unique online cards that are yours to keep there. Awesome stuff there with Sorare MLB. But as we take a look at my great friends here at BetUS, everybody, let's take a quick look at the slates here before we wrap up the show, because there's some awesome things. In case you guys haven't already, make sure you're chiming into our pregame coverage that we do weekly. Multiple pregame shows every single day of the week. Not every single day of the week, but more often than not during the week. We're going to also have a special guest host for that as well. It was supposed to happen Wednesday. That fell through. That will happen again soon. Be on the lookout. But one final thing I want to share with you all, though, at BetUS is, if you guys have been checking out our pregame parlays, we went 4 for 4 with our pregame parlay 2 days ago, and the last time we presented our picks. So we are on a little bit of a heater right now, not trying to brag or anything, but if you guys are going to tail me, make sure you guys, of course, tail at your own risk and bet responsibly with our great friends at BetUS. But as we take a look here, everybody, at BetUS and what they currently have to offer, if we take a look now at the MLB slates that we have going on for the rest of the day, of course, you got the Mets here, which is absolutely huge. That was a big out there that we saw. The Mets right now, Mets are at -146 on the live odds to the Cubs, +292. I'm not going to bother there. I'm going to look at the remaining slates today, everybody. And there is a Astros-Guardians game tonight that we see. The Astros are the money line favorite at -130, but I am actually going to take the Guardians. I like this matchup for the Guardians to at least stay in this ball game and either win outright or make sure that they don't lose by more than a run. We saw that it's been a heated battle between the Guardians and the Astros so far in the season. So I'm going to take the Guardians spread here at +1.5, -175. We're going to put 35 down to win us 20. And again, guys, if you would like to tail that, of course, do it at your own risk and make sure you bet responsibly. And as always, shout out to BetUS, who has you covered all your sports betting needs. Check them out today by clicking the link down below to sign up. It is that simple. And that way you too get a 125% bonus with your first 3 deposits, everybody. Do I think Wendell should be DFA'd? 100%. I mean, Iglesias here, my biggest issue with Iglesias, everybody, is that Jose Iglesias is a guy where, while he's looked great at AAA so far, I have some major concerns with him there at the MLB level defensively, personally. But again, we'll find out what happens. 2 outs, Taylor to third base. Hopefully the Mets can win this one, everybody. But I am going to wrap up the live show right now because I am very, very short on time. So again, thank you all so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. I love you guys all to death. The Mets are calling up their top pitching prospect in Christian Scott. Sign me up, baby. Let's get the hype going. Let me know your thoughts down below. For people on replay, your biggest takeaway with the Christian Scott call-up happening. What is your excitement level on a scale of 1 to 10? And what do you expect from Christian Scott? Because right now, I'm already going to say it's already in my mind without even overthinking it, folks. Final line for Christian Scott this Saturday. Book it. 5 innings, 3 hit, 2-run ball, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. That is what I'm going with Christian Scott. This Saturday is the line that I'm predicting right off the dome. I might be completely wrong. I do not care. I'm doing fantastic. Jacob, how are you? Come on, Beatty, up to you. Brett, of course, has his at-bat right now. All right, guys. All right. Once this Beatty at-bat is done, we'll wrap up the show. We'll wrap up the show once the Beatty at-bat is done here. He's 0-1 on the count, the bottom of the 10th with 2 outs, a runner on third. All the Mets need is a single to walk off and win this ball game. Can they do it? Can they get the job done? Let's see what happens here. On the 0-1, the pitch, and that's going to be down in the dirt on the 92 mile per hour pitch there. By I can't even see who's pitching for the Cubs. I'm going to butcher the guy's last name, so I'm not even going to bother. Good take there by Brett. Is now even on the count here. All right, folks, let's see what happens. But yes, I'm not a Joey Wendell fan, in case you guys haven't figured that one out already. Big swing and a miss of a utility signing. Holy shit, I can't stand him. 1-1 on the count here. 2 outs for Brett, and the pitch. Brett's going to rip that foul to the... okay, that's going to be... Yep, that's foul in the dirt. 1-2 on the count now to Brett Beatty, everybody. 1-2. Come on, Brett. Walk this off. Let's have an awesome moment to end the stream. If not, that's okay. Even if they walk it off afterwards or lose, it'll be after the fact. No worries there. Is Scott replaced? Scott is going to be added probably as a 6th man in the rotation, Ricardo. And I think Sevy's going to probably get pushed to Sunday if he does not pitch. Yeah, Sevy, I think, is getting pushed to Sunday with how things are currently constructed. But we'll find out more info over the next day or so. So make sure you guys are on the lookout for that. But here, 1-2 on the count. Brett Beatty locked in. Here we go, baby. And the pitch. And Brett swings right through a 101 mile per hour fastball. Not going to lie, most guys on the roster swing right through that too. I can only be so pissed off. 101 miles per hour. That's it. I love you guys. Kristen Scott's officially a Met. He's on the roster. We will break down everything that there is to know from his debut this Saturday in our post-game coverage. We'll be back live tomorrow as well, so make sure you guys are chiming in then. Love you guys to death. Big call for the Mets here. Let's see what Kristen Scott has in store for the team in Queens. Love you guys, and as always, let's go Mets, baby. Let's win this one, hopefully. Fingers crossed.